Merry Christmas, happy holidays, welcome to Shred Gaming, and if you are new to fighting games or looking to get into fighting games, excited about ProjectL and StreetFighter 6, this is the episode that you want to watch. In this episode, I bring on Rooflemonger, where we talk about fighting game education, the ways that you can break into fighting games, and just advice and overall education on how you should approach fighting games. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Trying to reach 200 subs by the end of the month. I need your guys' help to get there. And now let's get after it. What's going on, man?
Not much. Doing good.
Doing good, awesome. So yeah, the theme of the day is fighting game education, and Rooflemonger, you are the professor of fighting games. And main thing I want to talk about with ProjectL coming out, with StreetFighter 6, Tekken 8, so many games that are going to be coming out this year. Particularly with StreetFighter 6 and ProjectL, they're really pushing, or not pushing, but they're really trying to bring in the whole new players. They really want to bring in new players, and being the educator, the main educator for fighting games, how do you feel like we could approach new players, or how can new players approach fighting games?
Well, as for approaching new players, biggest thing is just, be welcoming, right? Like, I feel like internally, I guess we're always like, oh, we're a negative toxic community or something. But realistically, compared to actual negative toxic communities, I think the fighting game community is about the best of the competitive gaming communities, and by a fair margin. So yeah,
Yeah.
just be welcoming, show people a good time, right? Um, no, I guess always one of the biggest things I try to impart is it's not a race to the top. You don't got to be the next Daigo on day one or week one or even month one or year one or year two, year three, or year four, year five, year six. Just,
Yeah.
show up and have a good time. That's kind of the big deal. That's like, for so much people, especially in my generation, like the whole idea of being, pro gamer, esports, like all that, like we just smashed buttons. That's all we cared about. We had fun. And
Mhm.
I think, well, who knows on the ProjectL front, but a Street Fighter 6 is making large strides in that direction of we're making a game now where if you want to do your super grindy esports stuff, it's absolutely there for you. But if you want to just, mash buttons and all that, we got, the big single player mode, we got all these fun mini games. And I think that does a lot to help the casual community. As,
We've
sorry,
been
go ahead.
missing that a lot too, I think, in the past. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge esports fan. Like, that's where, because personally I find satisfaction in competition, and I love locals. But where I think we're missing a lot is in that single player, in those fun things that you can play with 3, 4, or 5 of your friends.
Exactly. Like,
You know?
you look back in the day, like, it's well known that if you look at the major titles of fighting games, Mortal Kombat's number one, right?
Right.
But how did Mortal Kombat get to number one? When we go back to like the dark ages, right? Like say
Mhm.
MK Deception, we had modes like Puzzle Combat. Like you could
Yeah.
just smash in the game, have fun, and you could also do that. Like here in my small
Mortal Kombat
corner
kart
of
racing.
yeah,
Yeah.
my small corner here, we had two number ones in tiny little Brockville, Ontario, Canada.
Mhm.
For a while, I couldn't hold it forever, but on Xbox, I was number one on the leaderboard for MK Deception, right? And my friend was number one on Puzzle Combat. Because he was just obsessed with it, right? So we
Right.
had the competitive aspect and the casual aspect, But yeah, so Mortal Kombat stayed on top, and it carried through because they always had games with all that fun casual content.
Mhm.
Versus like you played Street Fighter 4, and this is 2009, so this is way later past those games, right? But you had arcade mode, that was it. Or
Right.
you went online, that was it. Like fun little modes, the people truly appreciate it. Like some of my fondest memories of Tekken is playing Tekken Ball in Tekken 3, like the volleyball mini game.
Yeah.
Like me and my sister would play that nonstop.
Mhm.
And that's a large part of my Tekken memory is the silly volleyball game.
Yeah,
And
there
so
were
that kind of stuff matters.
it didn't I remember growing up, I mean, my first game was Mortal Kombat, going back to like MK1. It wasn't, ranks or what number you are globally and stuff like that. It was, could you beat Goro? Could you get
Yeah.
past Goro? Could you get to Shang Tsung? Did you beat Shang Tsung? Who'd you beat it with? It was when you played with your friends, it like we actually tried to do the reptile thing. Tried to get a reptile. We actually tried to do it. It's like so the element of fun, definitely kind of needs to make that comeback. You know, especially if you want to
And I
track
think it
like
is in a pretty decent way. So I'm
yeah.
looking forward to it.
Hmm.
And of course, like MK12, because we know that's next year now. I'm sure they're not going to be lacking for features, right?
No.
They're usually pretty good about that. So,
Hmm.
Street Fighter taking a good hint. Hopefully, Tekken 8. They have stuff, but Tekken 7 launched pretty bare bones. Let's put it that way. So hopefully that's rectified out of the gate for Tekken 8.
It can't be any worse than Street Fighter 5. I mean, that was the most. That was that was one of the
That,
worst
yeah,
launch.
it's the infamously bad situation, right? They
Yeah.
just put it out there, and esports was the focus, but they don't realize 90% of people or more that buy your game are the casuals, right? They're the
Yes.
actual people that keep your game afloat.
Yes. I do remember, however, like during the MKX launch, or no, MK11 launch, um, they had, what was it, that you'd use like a different inputs for your specials. So you'd,
Mm.
you know, quarter circle forward one or whatever, you know, but then if you wanted to actually, uh, uh, what's called EX your specials, they would,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Amplify,
they would
enhance.
sorry, amplify it. You would have to do a different input and everything. They actually took that away, and a lot of the pros didn't like it. But I was like, the casuals aren't going to understand the quarter circle forward one with the different inputs in there. They kind of need that, and that actually brings up another point: is have you ever heard the phrase, "I would play fighting games, but they're just too hard"?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like the audience I've managed to cultivate over the years is me taking those people by the scruff. Like, no, okay, I'm trying my best to make it less hard for you. Let's go, right? Like,
yeah,
but yeah, that's I think fighting games from a casual perspective, more than any other genre, are perceived as the scariest game to get into
mm-hmm.
because multiple factors. Like, just one, there is a level of mechanical depth. Like, I have
Yeah,
played competitive shooters. I used to be all about the clan stuff, back in the early 2000s, right? Competitive clan stuff. I used to play League of Legends a lot too back in the day, right? And on a fundamental level, it's just less mechanically complex. Like not to dismiss shooters, but like point click, right?
right.
Like that's a lot of it. Like, and any given champion in league, like okay, QWER or left click, right click, whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
versus like I don't know, a Doctor Doom 113 hit combo in Marvel 3, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
someone looks at that and they're just like, they hit the brakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a thing, and I think it's
So
both
you'd agree
unfounded
it's
and founded
you would agree they are hard.
for the most part. Like
Okay.
the thing is, I am of such a generation. I've never known anything but
Okay.
like I started in 1991 and I never stopped. So
Yeah.
like, it's hard for me to divorce myself from that sometimes. But like, I'll give you my example. Street Fighter 2. The characters I played for Street Fighter 2 when it came out, it was a new game, was Chun-Li and Honda. Because motions were too hard. I couldn't understand them.
They took the
And
plunge
people
and
would tell me
played
how to
Chun-Li.
do it, and then I would just be like, huh? But I
Yeah.
could pick E Honda, go on punches, and I get the
Yeah.
special move. So that's why I played him.
Okay.
And now, conversely, is a different argument. Also, when I started getting a little better, I could do the headbutt, right? Like, oh, that's a charge move.
Mm-hmm.
And like to me, that was a lot easier than motions. Nowadays, apparently, it's widely held in the opposite that charge moves are hard, and people do not like charge characters. When to me, that was the easy option. I played it because it was literally easier.
Really?
I couldn't do a dragon punch back in the day, but
Yeah.
I could hold back and hit forward. Like that seemed easy to me. But
See, like dragon punches were always easy for me, but it's like playing like Daphne in Street Fighter 4 was always wait, did I say Daphne? Who's the other doll?
DiCaprio,
Thank you, Daphne
yeah,
DeCapri. I apologize. DeCapri was always hard because she's a charge character.
yeah.
And
And she's an aggressive charge character. You have to keep moving forward while holding back, right?
right.
And to me, like mechanically, I love that. I love that idea. Like,
Mm-hmm.
'cause when I'm playing on stick, it feels like I'm shifting gears, like like getting ready for
Yeah,
charge and all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. It's perceived by beginners like too difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I think mechanics, other than like some the really stupid stuff, like old school Raging Storm, or like some Ivy's command grabs, like Calamity Symphony, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever in Soul Calibur, like. The real difficulty is the mind battle, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I could show you like Dragon Ball Fighter is very famous for a lot of its flash and mechanical difficulty, right? And then like the story usually was always Goichi versus Sonic Fox, but the real story was always Kazunoko, because Kazunoko would just wipe everyone across, especially for the first few years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he played the most boring, lame, mundane like style of play.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did not use the super optimal B&Bs. He used like basically like ABC kind of stuff a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just better. Like that's what it came down to, right?
He had that Doom Morgan thing going on.
Well, no,
Yeah.
well, Doom Morgan like will break your wrist. Like I'm like
Mm-hmm.
that's like churning butter, doing fly on fly over and over. But just like
Yeah.
the absolute basics in terms of mechanical difficulty in a mechanically complex game, right?
Right.
So it was just the fact that he was just that good.
Right.
So I find like, some games like Project L are moving towards, okay, let's remove the mechanical barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't got to do it's literally just like forward, back, or a button or whatever it's going to be. And like, but to me, that's a small part. Because
Yeah.
like, it's just, you still got to learn how to play correctly. You got to learn your spacing, you got to learn setups, you got to learn why this beats that or why this doesn't beat that. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
90% of the difficulty versus just da, 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 you know?
Yeah, speaking on Project, because on Project L, this is just an observation I've noticed is that I've seen a lot of the FGC has been like, oh, there's Project L, that's going to be cool, but the people who are really, really excited about it is actually like the Riot community
Yeah.
and who are not fighting game players at all. And in fact, if you go into any of the Reddit boards or anything on Project L, it's usually Riot people. It's people playing League of Legends or Legends of Runeterra. And I see it all the time. Oh, what game should I learn how to play, or what's a great starting game to do? To which I always said, dude, I honestly think what you should do is invest in the Street Fighter 30th 30-year anniversary and play some Third Strike, or play some Alpha 2, and that will be a great way to learn. Even Street Fighter 2, like
Yeah,
some
just
of
learning the basics. Like,
mm-hmm.
don't learn the run before you can walk. Like
Yeah.
95% of people who boot up Project L in that first month are gonna have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
So once again, it just goes back to the thing. It's not a race, right?
Mm-hmm. And it also kind of, I honestly think it gives a responsibility to the Canon, the development team over there, to actually make a fun way, in the way that Street Fighter 6 looks like it's doing, is make a fun tutorial, like the whole what's it called, the food thing where they're teaching how to do like quarter circle forward and
Yeah. From the
you know what I
Street Fighter,
mean? Like make it, I saw you're just like, what is he talking about? But
yeah, from the new trailer,
yeah, is like, it looks like they're doing something like that, to where they're actually making it like really fun.
Tutorials is a hard one because like,
Okay.
one of the tutorials that's always heralded as one of the best is like the Under Night and Birth one, and Eunice, it absolutely teaches you everything, right?
Okay.
But if I were to think of it from like a new player perspective, if I were just look at the mountains of text and all that, I'd just be like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be overwhelmed. Like it
yeah.
absolutely does go through everything.
Okay.
Like its completion is not the problem. It's just it's throwing too much at people. One of the ones I did like was Killer Instinct, as it'd be like, okay, learn this, list this. Okay, now screw off. Like come back later. Like it tells you don't like come back later. You figured it out. Come back another time. Like learn to just like play with a couple toys and then come back with the next thing. Here's the blue crayon. You can have the red crayon when you come back, and then you can mix and match after that. Like
there's one thing I learned about, like in the last podcast I did with Temp. We a friend of mine, he was talking about making tutorial fun, but I actually had the analogy of, well, you'll spend 20 hours playing, or more than that, like you'll spend 400 hours playing Elden Ring or Elder Scrolls games, but you won't put the time into learning a fighting game. Now I understand that you can pick up Elden Ring and just play and everything, but he was like, well, that's like, his analogy was, that's like giving someone a shovel and saying, here, dig a big hole, versus giving someone a guitar and saying, okay, learn a chord progression. And you're not gonna learn that. So that's why I was like, okay, we need to come away. And Killer Instinct was a great example for that, because they're like, here, go have fun. Because when I learned instruments, or even learning how to draw, I remember I took up penciling. It was like, okay, do these, facial features and body motion, motion capture, but that's only 20% of the time. The rest of the time, go draw some, comic book stuff, go draw some MK stuff, go,
Yeah.
or, you know what I mean? So the fun element, I think, needs to be there for the new
Actually,
players.
that's exactly it. That's why I
Mhm.
think the real best way to do the tutorial is like
Mhm.
do a proper tutorial too, sure, but like, and this is what I hope World Tour is to a degree for Street Fighter 6 is trick people into learning while you're already playing. You know,
Okay.
like you said, the mini games, like the pizza thing, well, like okay, it teaches you how to do a fireball motion.
Mhm.
There's a little basketball mini game that teaches you perfect parry timing, all that kind of stuff, right?
I didn't know that was
Just
what that was for.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's just to teach you the timing for the parry, right? Like
Mhm.
just go have fun, and every now and then we'll just sprinkle in, oh hey, by the way, just learn this along. It's no big deal, just learn it, and then go back to kicking cardboard boxes or whatever World Tour mode is going to be, right?
Yeah.
Like teaching people as they play, I think is always one of the best ways. Uh, like if say you play an action adventure game, like a Yakuza game or something, right?
Yeah.
So it'll let you go do your thing for a little bit, but then it'll give you a fight. And it's like, oh, by the way, you can do this in the middle of a fight,
Mhm.
and like do it once. Okay, now go scurry along, but now you did this in an actual practical situation, so you're more likely to remember it versus going to a different menu, a different mode, reading it there, then coming back to the real game, that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, that like you're saying, just do it, go have fun, and then come back.
Yeah.
And everything. This, that's kind of like the Mary Poppins song, the spoonful of sugar, make the medicine go down. So it's like, yeah, just like go have that fun. So it's, um, so if you were to tell a new player, that whole like, oh, that doesn't even want to touch a fighting game. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've always wanted to play a fighting game, but they're just too hard. Like, what is something you would do to attract that new player in? Like, what would you know, like, how would you grasp that character? What would you show them, like, to get them in?
Well, if they're looking to already get in, the
Mhm.
first thing I just
They're
say is go at your own
interested.
pace.
Okay, this person's
Yeah.
interested.
Like
So,
if they're not interested, like that's a different story trying to get people who don't want to
right,
play,
right,
right?
right.
But if you're already interested, I just say just go at your own pace, man.
Mhm.
Uh like so many people like I get people on combo guide videos, right? And like they're like, I just picked up this game and this combo's too hard. I'm like, you're already 3 steps further than you need to be, right?
Yeah.
You just picked up the game, just mess around for a bit. Don't stress about the most optimal B&B combo in the corner on
Mhm.
counter hit or stuff like that, like
Go play some
it's just
arcade
not a
mode.
thing. Like when I was younger, like we didn't know none of that stuff. Like our best combo was like crouch medium kick and the fireball. Like and that's all we needed to do, right? Like it
Mhm.
was good enough. If we accidentally did something better, then awesome. But yeah, it was just so many people because they look at this as a genre with the high skill cap, and it absolutely is.
Mhm.
Uh, Perhaps the highest of all genres for
Mhm.
competitive gaming to have the skill cap, right? Especially because it's you. There's no teammates or whatever. It's all on you. Every decision is you. But they look at it and it's like, oh, I'll buy in, and then I want to get to the top as fast as possible. And it really isn't feasible.
Mhm.
Like some of the most fun I've ever had in any games is not the super ultra competitive matches, right? It's the matches where I start playing stupid and my friends are just trying to get around stupid play, and that becomes the match in and of itself. It wasn't who executed the sickest counterplay or whatever. It's
Mhm.
like, no, I'm just gonna dash forward uppercut with Shang Tsung like 4 times in a row when you think I'm trying to do serious zoning on you.
Yeah.
And and then that's 10 times more fun than like the actual serious competitiveness sometimes, right?
It
So like,
is.
yeah, like so just the biggest thing is just yes, okay. There is the glittering mountaintop of all the gods of fighting games, right?
Yeah.
And
There's the
it's nice to
items,
look
the
up
Sonic
there and
Foxes.
appreciate it, but you don't need to join them just yet.
Mhm.
Take your own time. That's really the part where you'll have the most fun.
Yeah. And even them, the glittering top people, the Tweeties, the Punks, the Idoms, the Sonic Foxes. If you watch them play, they're having so much fun. Like
Yeah.
they got there by having fun, and so that, like, going back to that fun, games. I think games hold a responsibility for making it fun and making the learning fun, but it's the people who want to learn the fighting game who are like, oh, I love the Project L looks so good. I want to play. I want to play this game, but I've never played a fighting game. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, don't
especially
worry.
Project L. Like once again,
Yeah,
that 90% of people, and on top of that, it's an all new genre too. Like, well,
yeah.
not genre, but it's a game what ain't ever been done before, despite the fact there's some similarities. Like Dragon Ball Fighters when that was brand new.
Mm-hmm,
We had all these Marvel pros, Marvel vets, all this kind of stuff,
mm-hmm.
and it's not for
You
the
mean like
most part. It
like
wasn't.
it was a new IP? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like, but
Yeah.
it's a new thing. Like, it's not a pre-establishing with pre-established rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the old Marvel vets were not the ones who wound up succeeding in that game. It's just because it was an all new
Yeah.
thing. So just treat it as an all new thing. And same thing with Project L. Like, if you have Dragon Ball Fighters experience, doesn't mean you're going to be a god at Project L.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it
true.
just means we're all on the same boat. We're all learning again. Even the people who are the old vets, we're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to relearn how to walk again in an all new game. So Project L, especially, just take it at your own pace.
It,
Because
I have been seeing.
the people you think have a head start on you do
Mhm.
not have anywhere near the head start that you think they do. That's the reality of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. I see all the time, especially on Reddit, is they'll say, what game should I learn to learn that's going to fit well in Project L? And you can argue like, Marvel versus Capcom Infinite. You can argue, sorry, Skullgirls, Dragon Ball Fighters, a lot of those tag games. You can argue
Mm.
even I was like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, you can argue DNF Duel, you can argue Street Fighter 5 and all those things. To which point it's like, it actually, you take a look at it and you're just like, it's a brand new IP.
Exactly. Just
It's, have fun with fighting games now and learn. I would just tell a lot of those new players, honestly, it's like, just pick a fighting game that looks fun to you and learn that, and
yeah.
learn the new ones. Don't focus on the on being, being a pro at this game and practicing this game, just so that when Project L comes out, you're going to be a pro at this. It's like,
Yeah.
hold on, slow your roll.
Like here, like I make my living dissecting fighting games, right?
Right.
Not to pat myself on the back, but I learn fighting games faster than most anybody, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody, most anybody.
Yeah.
And when I look at Project L, I'm like, when I look at it, I'm just like, man, I'm gonna be a freaking scrub at this game. That's how I perceive myself, right?
Yeah.
So don't worry, don't stress it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
And
just, it's gonna be its own thing. Whatever you think this game's gonna be, we're almost certainly gonna be wrong.
mm-hmm.
Like, whatever you think is gonna be strong when we start looking at more trailers when it gets closer to the launch, it'll all be garbage tactics. Like, no one knows until our feet hit the ground when it actually launches.
Yeah. And I am guilty of that too. I am totally guilty of being like, oh, it's going to be like this, or even the opposite. I was like, this is going to be totally different. Yeah, I'm totally guilty of taking the copium and being all of, all hyped up on it, which I am. I'm really excited for it because I've been playing League of Legends since season 1, and I play fighting games. So this is the perfect trifecta of a game to me.
Yeah.
But it is, it's like, I have taken a step back because, like I said, I'm a very competitive person, and just learn to just enjoy a game for what it is, and it actually makes it easier to learn when you're enjoying yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
So so yeah, on to so let's say I'm a not veteran, but okay, I'm playing Street Fighter 5, but I want to learn Tekken, or I want to learn, the new game, especially because we were kind of just talking about like Project L is going to be coming out, Street Fighter 6 is going to be coming out. What is your, like, what would you say is like your approach to this, to a totally new style? Because going from Street Fighter 5 to Tekken is a completely different monster,
Yeah.
or even going to Guilty Gear Strive, that is a completely different monster in itself. So how do you, as an analyst, I would say, like, dissecting video games, what was your approach to learning new games?
For me, specifically, like, it's a hell of a lot of training mode.
Okay.
Like, like, I'll put on, like, I have my 80s music playlist because I'm a big baby and I stopped listening to new music in like 2001, right? I put on my big 80s playlist and I just
Okay.
grind training. Like, I like that. That's like, I realize for most people that's not fun, but for me it is. But like, for all new games, especially genre switching,
Uh-huh.
like, there is always stuff that carries over regardless of the gulf between two games.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go from Street Fighter to Tekken, like yes, that is pretty different, but there is stuff, like you'll still understand concepts of like punishes, spacing, neutral, even if like the mechanics are different, like all that stuff still carries over.
Yeah.
And some games do share more DNA than others, even if you think they're different. Like Mortal Kombat, like the modern NRS era, those
Mm-hmm.
games are 3D games in a 2D plane.
Okay.
Like you would learn a lot from Tekken just from playing like MKX.
Okay.
You knew what do you do when there's a high? You neutral duck highs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it has those 3D rules,
Okay.
like the same kind of rule set, right? So even if it's not one-to-one applicable, like you still stuff carries over. A game specifically like Tekken, that's very much what we call like a legacy game, in that if you played the previous game, you will 100% be ready for the new one, minus whatever new systems are in place. So
Right.
like the best way to prep for Tekken 8 specifically would definitely be play Tekken 7.
Right.
But and then on the flip, no, NetherRealm games is the best way to prep for MK11 to play MKX. No,
No, not
they're
at all.
barely the same game.
No,
Is MKX anything like MK9? No.
not
Like,
at all.
is MK12 going to be anything like the three before? Probably not, because
Yeah.
every NRS game is just wildly different from everyone else.
Even back in the
So you have
90s,
games
dude.
like that. Yeah, there's games like that, and there's games like Tekken, where each Tekken is like one new Lego on top of the previous Lego, right?
Right.
Versus Mortal Kombat, just all the Legos are spread across the floor, and who friggin' knows?
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the challenges of fighting games of the legacy game versus the non-legacy game.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Street Fighter 6, I feel you would get just as much, if not more, out of Street Fighter 4 than Street Fighter 5 and the 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were
Oh,
you were you were in the closed beta, right? The first one. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, you got in there when you felt there was more similarities to Street Fighter 4 than
Oh, there's focus attacks in Street Fighter 6. They're just called a different name, right?
okay.
Drive Impact is very similar to Focus.
Okay.
I would argue better in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not character dependent like 4 was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 4, Fei Long had a great focus. Akuma had a great focus.
Mm-hmm.
T-Hawk, not so.
Not so much. Yeah.
Versus like, I'm sure there is some differentials, but like for the most part, Drive Impact, everyone goes a pretty far distance.
Uh-huh.
It's full combo on counter hit or punish, 2 hits of armor, like so, and obviously for the most part, other than like that one Kage V skill or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing really like it in 5.
Yeah.
So that's a whole mechanic. I could say just playing the previous game doesn't mean you're as ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you never dealt with focuses before, like if you play Street Fighter 4, you understand a lot of play counterplay.
Mm-hmm.
And especially you can do like focus, you wake up, focus backdash or stuff like that. You can wake up drive impact in Street Fighter 6. So some of that mindset carries through. And it's just something like in Street Fighter 5.
Got it.
So I guess I'm rambling at this point, but just
No. You're
every
good,
fighter is just, there is some level of playing the old game is exactly what you need for the new game, and some are less like playing the old game doesn't do you much for the new game at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like once again, MKX to MK11. If you played Sub-Zero, MKX Sub-Zero is one of the most frustrating defensive walls in all of fighting game history.
Yeah.
MK11 Sub-Zero is the most baby mode 50-50 coin flip mix-up character of all time. Like they could not be more diametrically opposed, and it's Sub-Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the most important characters in gaming history.
Right.
And he could not be further apart how he plays from one game to the next.
Yeah. And I like how Sonic Fox was like, oh, he's actually a low tier character. And I was like, no.
Like he can be.
Yeah. Offline,
just
maybe.
His tier is based off how well do you react to the basically unreactable overhead.
Okay.
That's his tier. If you're blessed with that top 1% reaction time, then yeah, he's not as bad.
No.
But if you're not, then he gets pretty rough.
Mm-hmm. Or not moving on, but going off of, I kind of asked you earlier, anything like you wanted to add onto that. So, we were talking about ProjectL, talking about Street Fighter 6 and all the new, bringing in new players. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about, learning new games. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to bringing in that? Because, like I'm kind of titling this as like, hey, new players, like this is the video you need to, if this is the video you need to watch. I want you
Mhm.
guys to watch this. I want you guys to understand, we kind of touched on it, like having fun or anything like that. Is there anything more that you wanted to add to, um,
It's difficult because like
mhm.
I don't want to like just repeat myself, but that is the big thing. Is just go at your own pace, like because it's. I don't want to repeat myself, but like it's not a
No,
race.
yeah.
Like that's the big thing, right? Like you don't need to be pro right away. Because I look at people, I've seen like Project L things. Like I see people on like who are Riot players first
Hmm.
and foremost, right? And they're looking to go pro in Project L, and I'm like,
I've seen that literally. People are like,
buddy,
"Oh, this
I
is
am
the game you're going pro
sorry.
in."
Like,
Yeah,
not to say you can't do it, because like
yeah.
Project L will bring in just like Dragon Ball Fighters, will bring in all these names you've never heard of who will destroy everyone else, right?
Hmm.
A whole bunch of new names will be made. But if you've only ever played League, and this is your very first fighting game ever, set your expectations accordingly.
Hmm.
Don't expect that Evo top 8 on your first year.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm
Um,
looking. I'm personally am looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that new community that's coming
mm,
in, that new generation of players. One of the arguments I had for the fighting game is lacking the next generation. Because one thing I do like about the FGC is the massive age gap. You got your
yeah,
18-year-olds, you got your just a kid, you got the younger generations.
the old
So,
people.
and then yeah, I'm 35, and
I turned 40 next year.
not nice, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I was watching the Latin Americas, the Capcom. I think it was or the what's it called, the Capcom Cup for the
Okay,
Latin.
on Pro Tour, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was watching the Latin Americas, and it was like there was a couple guys who were 42, 43 on their playing, and I was like, this is awesome. But I
Like
also,
for the proper Capcom Cup, God, forgive me, I forget the gentleman's name,
yeah.
but a very young gentleman from the UK just qualified for the Capcom Cup, an ed player, right?
Hmm.
He's like 18 or 19 or something.
Yeah.
And Daigo's going to be there, and Daigo's 43, I think now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that like there is no other like that is the biggest thing. I'll always praise fighting games over everything else.
Hmm.
There is no other competitive genre of gaming that has the age range the fighting game community does. If
It's
you're
true.
18, welcome aboard. If you're 40 with kids, don't worry, there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
Like
We've been here since
uh,
the early 90s, bro.
we
It's
are the
like,
first esport, and
yeah.
we ain't going anywhere. Like versus like competitive Counter Strike. You know what age the senior league begins in?
No, I don't.
25.
Oh, wow. The
Yeah,
senior league is
that's the
25.
senior leagues. I watched the League World Tour thing,
Hmm.
the big league finals, right? Faker, oh my god, Faker, and he's the old man because he is also 26.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
and
seeing,
he's the Daigo of League or whatever, right? Like
yeah.
he's 26.
I wonder, has he done his required 2 years in the Korean military?
Uh, I have no idea, but
I don't know if you know this in
I imagine most league players put that off as long as they can.
they do. That was a
Yeah.
big thing because in South Korea, you are required to serve 2 years in the Korean military, and a lot of them will, and it has to be before the age of 28. And
Mm.
so after you graduate high school, you're 18 to 28. You have 10 years to. You can choose when, but you have to commit to 2 years is
Yeah.
required. And so I'm always like, when's Faker going to do his 2 years? Yeah, I wonder if he's going to, because there's another player who was a top laner who pretty much, remember how we were talking earlier about boring setups, like the it's super boring to watch this player. Well,
Yeah.
for a long time, did you follow League, by the way, the League Championship Series? Like,
I didn't follow. Like I used to play when I can't remember the time specifically, but
mhm.
when Miss Fortune was about to be introduced, he was the
Okay,
newest character coming up. That's when I started. I played from then till about 2014,
okay. So
and then we stopped because I played with my friends. And if you played any amount of League, League angries up the blood.
yeah.
And like I almost got into a fist fight with a
So-
bunch of my friends over League, and then like, okay, we're
yeah.
gonna stop playing.
'Cause dude, that's the other thing too. And I know recently with the whole Punk Samurai thing, I was like, uh, talking trash is a part of competition. It's a mind game, and I'm totally okay with in-game trash talking. What I'm not okay with is the toxic crap that you see spew out of League of Legends players' mouths, to where they get like super personal, like talking like about, you know, your mom, sister, death threats, blah 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 blah. It's like it got too much with League. Anyway, what I was saying was there was a time when League was really boring to watch. And a lot of it had to do with Korean teams were creating a structure in which they would hyper focus on your CS, your creep score, and less on like the fights, less on, you know, it was more strategic than it was kind of like action. And there was a player who, a top laner who brought back that action to Korean teams. However, when he was 20, he was 26. He wasn't doing too well in the Korean leagues, and he ended up wanting to join the military. But when he came out of the military, he went back to playing League, and he ended up, quote, saving League for Korean spectators, because he brought that action, you know, back to the genre that has been missing for a long time.
Yeah, like, and for fighting games, just as a comparison, like
Mm-hmm.
some of the most exciting players of all time are not the people who place top 8 at every tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you ask me to go, what are my favorite matches of Street Fighter 4 specifically? I'll give you the Gandhi match,
Mm-hmm.
which is infamous scrub mashing match. I'll give you the one set of two Hondas that go to timeout every time, as Honda versus Honda is a very blessed match.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a bunch of Koji Cog matches who plays T-Hawk, right? And he plays the most insane, aggressive T-Hawk you'll ever see.
Mm-hmm.
And he sure won't make top 8 in those tournaments, but he'll have the most enjoyable matches throughout that tournament run.
Right. No, those are always the funnest. Those are always fun. So even the Evo, it was a what was it called? Evo memory number, is it 37 or 39?
Evo Moment 37, yeah.
37. Okay, even like that. I mean, Jay Wong is a turtle play. He turtles. That's how he
Plays
plays.
lane, yeah.
Yeah, and it was really, it was actually really fun, because I think Daigo, you know, even though he won that set, he didn't go on to win that Evo. But I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
It was still like Battle by the Bay back then, wasn't it? It wasn't even technically Evo yet. I can't remember.
Yeah,
It's a long time ago.
Something like that. But I remember.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he didn't go on to win the entire event. However, it was really fun to watch him get pissed. Like, he was so angry at Jay Wong and the way he played, and then ended up, like, you know, doing that. It was one of the biggest moments,
Mhm.
you know, in competitive fight gaming history.
It's probably the biggest video game moment of all time, realistically.
Mm-hmm. One of them, yeah, for sure. At least top 3.
I can't, like, the only one I can think of that's even on the same level is technically not like a prop. It's in a game, but it's not a gaming moment. It's the Leroy Jenkins. Like, I think of like just widespread, everyone knows this. Like, that's
okay.
Evo Moment 37 is about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like if you show me like, oh man, this guy sniped the guy in COD. Like, who cares?
That happens
I've
all the
seen
time,
a million of those.
dude.
Like,
That's like,
yeah, like.
And the only other thing I can think of, I think, is when the LCS season 2, where it was a base run. It was to win, and the guy was using oh gosh, I forgot which player who he was using. I think he's using I think his name is Kazadin, and he was, the whole team had to go back to base, and he kept blinking to the different sides of the base and kept killing the base, and they ended up winning. You know, because of that. It's like, that's like that, but it's like, that's known for LCS player. That's known for League players and everything. But as far as like Leroy and Evo event number 37, no, it's like, that's generally widely recognized as like,
Yeah,
you know,
like, you've seen it. It's in the Internet Hall of Fame, right?
yeah, for sure. So, but anyway,
And the new League players for ProjectL, they're gonna look at moments like that.
mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of things they want to replicate.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, from the looks of ProjectL, it's setting up to be that. It's I mean, almost all fighting games can like set up to be. The only other fighting game I can think of that maybe doesn't have those big setups is like something like DNF Duel, where, and things with a big.
There's plenty of games where like,
mm-hmm.
you don't have the big flash. Like, I'm a big Virtual Fighter fan, right? And Virtual Fighter, one of the things even fans of the franchise like it's like the least flashy game.
Yeah.
Like the most times you ever see clips are when people have like really weird ring out situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like I threw you out of the stage, but I fell first, so I lose. Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are usually the clips you see out of VF, right? But like,
Mm-hmm.
like not every game needs the big flashy moment, but it sure helps the marketing for sure, right?
Right.
Like, if you can get that viral moment, then people are like, oh, like, what? Not year one. I think it was year two of Street Fighter 4.
Mm-hmm.
That was year two of Street Fighter 4. The year Daigo played Guile instead of Ryu, right? And I think he beat Justin, and he was playing Guile, and then
Mm-hmm.
like the next day, I see every account playing Guile online. You know,
Yeah.
because people look for the big moments and they want to imitate that. They want to replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the big things. It could
Yeah.
be like that, like a tournament win with a character, and then all of a sudden the next day everyone's playing the character, or like Justin streams a lot too, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Justin, he's in a device of his own creation on this, but he'll play Third Strike and play Chun, and he'll throw out the super trying to get people to parry it, right?
Right. Just for
And like
fun.
that's part of the reason you try to play against Justin online on the stream is you want to recreate the parry against him, and he'll give you the opportunity, and it's up
Mm-hmm.
to you to do it. People want to do that.
Yeah. And I do like how self-aware he is. Like he totally is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Justin's a really good guy.
No, yeah. He's if you ever go into his chat and watches streams and everything, he's actually like he's totally there to help you to answer questions and everything. He's he's pretty awesome about that. Brian F is the same. Brian F will totally talk to you, answer questions and everything. So which is great, and that actually is another thing was kind of, this is kind of more so like a direct message to new players and everything, is don't let the people of Reddit fool you into what the FGC is really like, because sure there's your toxic players, but
There's always a bad apple.
there's
Like
always, yeah. But I've gone a lot of locals in I live in Sacramento, or near, I live near Sacramento, and I've gone to Dragon Ball Fighters locals, to MK locals, to Tekken locals, what else, to Smash Melee locals, Guilty Gear locals. People there are awesome, and it's a little different because you're live and everything, and don't like, and nothing against like people on Reddit at all, and everything. There's been great people on Reddit. We've had great conversations and stuff like that. Same thing with Discord. I know you personally don't like Discord very much, but
it's not that I just don't use it much. It just
okay.
it hasn't come. I still post on something awful, and I have for well over 20 years. Right? I'm a forums guy. I just
Okay.
never evolved. I never
Yeah.
evolved. Let's put it that way.
Right. You're
Yeah.
you're stuck. You're the old guy stuck in your ways. But
I'm like one of the 10 posters still in Test Your Might. Like
yeah, that's awesome. But there's actually like I'm a part of the Discord. What's up? Gameplay Nethercast, and on those guys, it's like we have a great group of guys, and we all talk about, like, we'll talk about fighting games together, and we all agree and disagree, but we all talk very civil, and that's kind of what it's all about. It's like, yeah, some guys you'll watch Punk, who talks a lot of crap, and he's that's his character, but then you watch other people who are like Samurai, who are a little bit less not a little more subtle, I think is the better way to describe it. But it's just, the FGC is not a toxic place at all.
no.
And it's a very
I don't
welcoming
get to
place.
go to many events myself due to
Okay.
just I live in the middle of nowhere, right?
Right.
Like that's just reality. And to me, that's also another one of the strengths of the FGC. Like I like to think I made a decent name for myself over the years.
You
And
have.
once again, I live in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't New York. This isn't San Francisco or somewhere like NorCal, SoCal, or Tokyo or Japan. Well, I'm just some guy. I'm some hick in redneck country, Ontario. Like,
Yeah.
so if you can make it here, you can really make it anywhere in the FGC.
Yeah.
Yeah. My local is not local. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get to go to many events, but still, every time, nothing but like the most, like, just clean, fun interactions. The only times I ever see anything bad, quote unquote, is when like it's a shared event and there's like, not fighting game people there.
Okay.
Like more in like the esports stuff. Here we have our COD players or whatever, like that's usually the only time I see trouble, and it's just not from the fighting game people.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like proximity chat's funny, but COD players, they can be brutal.
Yeah,
they can be pretty brutal, and I'll admit that the FGC so far, of the people I have personally met in both real life and online, has been one of the best places, and I kind of hold us to a higher standard as well for new players. It's just because, I mean, albeit you may disagree. I feel fighting games as a popularity wise is not up to where it was back in the 90s and early 2000s.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
StreetFighter 2 was the most popular game on planet Earth.
Oh yeah.
Like if you weren't alive back then, it's like I try to explain it to people who are like, in their 20s and stuff.
Everyone knows
weren't alive.
Everyone knows Hadouken.
It wasn't just like, it's like Fortnite. No, it was bigger than Fortnite. Like it was the game. Like it like I remember not too long ago on Twitter, I found this clip of no, it wasn't quite Ricky Lake. It wasn't Ricky Lake. It might have been
like the talk show girl.
Yeah, like it was one of the 90 talk shows, right?
Okay.
And like, they were just passing around the mic, going around the crowd. It's like, yo, you look like Blanca from Street Fighter. And everyone just lost their shit, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone knew. This is a bunch of like 30, 40, 50-year-old people in the crowd, and most of them were women. And everyone knew who Blanca was.
That's true.
And like it's hard to just and then like I don't want to call it the fighting game crash, because it's not a crash, but like I personally call it the dark ages. It's like when the arcade culture just kind of started winding down, like, and then
I'm guilty
like, realistically,
of it too. I totally went home and I didn't want to go back to the arcades. I totally was
for me, like there just wasn't an arcade to go to anymore. It just closed. That was it. So like, and to me, home wise, because we still played like Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur were the ones that really carried the torch.
Okay.
Like everyone will talk Third Strike and Marvel 2, and like, people were playing them and stuff, sure. But like everyone I knew was playing Soul Calibur and Soul Calibur 2. Like that was the real game. Like that and like MK Deception, MK Deadly Alliance, they held the torch for things to kind of come back in the big revival with Street Fighter 4.
I agree, because in my locals it was Soul Calibur 1, Soul Calibur 2, Dead or Alive 4, and Dead or Alive 3.
When Xbox 360 was newer, that really, because there wasn't as many games for Xbox 360 back then too, right?
Right.
So like Dead or Alive 4 is absolutely one of my most played fighting games ever, because it was online, which was novel at the time.
It was, yeah.
Also had better netcode than most modern fighters too, which is really messed up. Had a lot of great online features, like Dead or Alive 4 is just a good game. Like I know so many people want to rag on DOA, but I love Dead or Alive. I will fight for Dead or Alive any day of the week.
A lot of the MK9 pros were DOA players. Yeah.
Well, that's because DOA was the first real fighting game to have a competitive scene esports wise.
Okay.
Just like locals. Like what was it, like cyber gaming, or like let's hold that thing, right? So then they picked up and went MK9, so that a lot of the people just kind of slotted in, right? But yeah, like, so anyway too, another big thing, like and I say the big fighting game revival, like compared to shooters and all that, obviously we're still not that big, but we're doing better. Like Tekken 7 just sold 10 million. They just hit, and like 10 million is like a lower, but like a Mortal Kombat kind of number.
Yes.
You would never say before then Tekken could even approach Mortal Kombat. Obviously, it's been going for many, many years, right? But that's big. That's big time. That's not just, here's our cool thing. Like even the indie games now could sell 1 million, right? Like that's big time. And like we're getting up there. And I think Street Fighter 6 will outsell Street Fighter 5 in the first 2 years. They'll do better in the first 2 years than Street Fighter 5 did in 6. And obviously then like ProjectL, and now Tekken's like very established. Tekken 8's going to do gangbusters as well. Mortal Kombat 12 is Mortal Kombat. Like,
Mortal Kombat.
I'll sell every game that's not Call of Duty.
Like, Well, I mean, with the numbers there, and I made the mistake, by the way, this is totally my bad. I made the mistake of comparing um, Call of Duty and Fortnite and Apex Legends numbers to Mortal Kombat numbers. And because Mortal Kombat numbers, MK11 sold 12 million, MKX sold 11 million. I don't know the exact number for MK9, but I do know that that WB broke even with it, so it was a success. And something that was also brought to my attention from last time, the last podcast, was I didn't know is that MK9 built a community from the ground up, which is something ProjectL is going to do. It's going to totally build a brand new community from the ground up, just like the Dragon Ball Fighters community had a brand new community. There was players that carried over, such as Sonic Fox. I think
Sonic's been at it since the Dead or Alive days. So
yeah, but I think Wawa was a Smash player or some.
oh, I don't know his background. I know him from
Yeah.
DBFZ. Yes, I don't know his background.
Right, but I'm pretty sure it's Wawa. It could be somebody else, but they carried over. And everything.
Dragon Ball Fighters brought in a bunch of
but it brought in
Dragon Ball
players.
Fighters is what helped build my channel too, right? Like I was around. I was about 10K subscribers before Dragon Ball Fighters hit. But then like Dragon Ball Fighters hit, and then like, the first 3 months I was at 20K subscribers, right?
Yeah.
Versus me doing it for years before then. And like it brought in a lot of first timers, and a lot of those first timers stayed, and they went on to play Guilty Gear. They went on to buy like BlazBlue Tag. They tried Tekken for the first time, and ProjectL specifically. That's my biggest hope and dream is, come play ProjectL, absolutely. But then try out Street Fighter 6, try out Mortal Kombat 12, try out Tekken 8, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. This is also kind of a direct message to new players. Dude, the best time to learn a fighting game is when a brand new IP comes out. This is a great time to learn something, and it's a great time to be introduced to other things. I mean, shoot, I was just an MK player for years. I didn't even like Injustice 1. I learned Injustice late, but I was Deception and Armor. I was playing MK1 back in 1992 in Soul Calibur and DOA. But I played like Deception is one of my favorite fighting games of all time. Yeah, it wasn't competitive, but it was freaking fun. One of the greatest stories of all time, and at least in like one of the greatest gaming stories that, in my personal opinion, But when MK9 came out, and I was all about MK9. I was all about MKX. I was all about but that also introduced me to Street Fighter. That introduced me to the Guilty Gear games. So I was like, oh, MK9's awesome. I'm gonna learn a different. Check out some of the other games, because that's exactly what happened to me with Dead or Alive. I was playing Dead or Alive, and a friend of mine was like, oh, and I told him, like, I played Dead or Alive in Mortal Kombat. Oh, you try Soul Calibur and go over and play Soul Calibur. And I was like, this game is awesome, because MK at the time was really like kind of choppy and blocky, there. And he's like, oh, it has like waves and motions and everything like that. It's like when
if you compare Soul Calibur, like, Ellie Lines to Deception Armageddon era, or like you watch any character like Mitsurugi super flows, and then like
it was like
yeah,
it was
animation
like
qualities are definitely quite different.
Yeah, but I mean, then it, according to Ed Boon, is like, oh, that's what happens when you make a game on a deadline. Which is another thing. ProjectL, by the way, is like, they're giving them the time and resources to make the game. I could be wrong. I think it's coming out in 2023, in late 2023. I could be wrong.
I would probably say 2024, but I will say the game, a lot of people don't appreciate just how long it's been in development.
Yeah. And
like
COVID definitely put a
damper, like, hey, MK11, right? Like,
yeah.
We were supposed to get a year 3 and a year 4, is my understanding of MK11.
Really?
And COVID, along with other issues, put an end to that.
Other issues?
Like the WB merger and all that kind of stuff.
That was one of the key things about that. Some of my friends argued over why MK12 has not been anything because of the MK merger.
That is why MK12 is a thing, because there was a very real threat of them selling the studio off.
Yes.
And the only way to attractively sell the studio is to sell the license. And that means they had to already be working on the next game.
Okay.
That's why there's no Injustice 3, right? That's why the cycle is dead.
Mm-hmm.
If you sell that studio, you can't sell the rights to Batman and Superman. That's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're working on a game they don't own, it's not as attractive a sale. Now everything finally finished up and it looks like they're staying where they are, but the wheels started turning on that stuff a long time ago. That's why the next game had to be MK12 because
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat also sells more than Injustice, right? So it had to be working on the most attractive thing to buyers,
True.
which they didn't wind up selling, but still, that's my understanding where everything started turning on that.
True. And which is fine. It's like I'm
Like, honestly, I'd rather MK12 or Injustice 3 myself. So
I'm the same. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Injustice. Injustice 1 had such a great story and everything, but as far as like, yeah, I was never too big of a fan, and I think MK Injustice 2, it didn't last long at all.
I feel like Injustice 1 had a bigger splash than Justice 2 did, honestly.
It was a brand new IP and it was very popular and carried off of the popularity of MK9, but MK2 just it was just boring to me, just my opinion, but it was just boring. But yeah, it was like, like I was saying, brand new IP, great time to get started, great time to learn a fighting game, and what better than the League of Legends IP to carry that in, to these new players. So yeah, this 2023 is shaping up. And the other reason, by the way, I think is because if you look at the release block of Riot Games with Legends of Runeterra, what else was there? Valorant. They would pretty much like, okay, we announced this game in October. We got the official name we got 2 betas in January, February, and then March they gave us the name, and then May the game is released. It all happened very quickly. And before October of 2019, we had no idea that Valorant even existed.
That's true, but ProjectL is also well past that Valorant cycle, right?
That's true.
Yeah, like the stretch of time is we've been like, we got like 2 little nuggets a whole year, and then they're like, yeah, see you next year, maybe Evo. Who knows? Like,
yeah.
But we're definitely like past that time frame, I would say.
Do you think, a little set aside from like the education theme we were talking about, do you think that a game could be released with like said 10 to 12 characters, like even a tag game? Because what I suspect them to do is create this game, and once a month or every other month they would bring in the new character and bring in a new character. Like it looks like they're trying to
I'm of 2 minds of that.
Okay.
One as me, Rooflemonger the person, Michael Townsend, and 2, Rooflemonger the YouTuber. The YouTuber in me wants that DLC every month.
I could see that happening.
The trailer breakdown. Oh my! Like here's the combo. Here's the guy. Like so much every month. Oh my god! I'd be taken care of for years if we could do that for a month.
Yeah.
Like
what's the new skin? Like, oh, there's 2 new skins this month. Yeah.
But yeah, the content creator part of me wants that. It all depends, like just how much money are they willing to put into it, right? Like obviously it's not going to be the same as League. That's where they bake their bread. So like, I don't think they're going to get that budget.
In Valorant, Valorant's pretty big.
But I could expect like, 1 every 2 months, maybe. Like every other month we get a character, something like that. As far as like initial roster goes, that's the question, because one of the big things, it's just costs are going up, right? Like if you look at an older game, like okay, we had this big roster, but like we copied over the sprite from last year, or this guy's a palette swap, like all these cost saving measures for new characters. And now it costs, like every character has to have more texturing, more model, more like just artists need to do their thing. Like it's just so much more expensive now, right? That's why rosters generally are smaller.
And League of Legends is very easy. I mean, I don't know I'm not a developer, not a programmer, but from what I have been told is that League of Legends costumes and skins, it's pretty easy to put those in. So it's not.
Well, once you get the pipeline going, sure, but like start even like a skin is not quite a full character, right? Because you don't have the skeleton, you don't have the rigging, like there's a million other little factors that make just a character more complex, right?
Because I guess Guilty Gear is like you can't do skins in those games. You can't do costumes.
You can mod them, but like the thing is the mods never look good compared to the base models, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they don't do it, because they know, as like, it's the whole 2D, 3D thing, right?
Hmm.
Every single frame of animation is modeled in a very specific way.
Hmm.
At all of a sudden, the costume in most normal games would just be you apply the skin, right?
Hmm.
But then it doesn't have this every frame. Look at the shadow, look at the light. Like, it just makes it such a bigger pain in the ass than it would for a normal game like Street Fighter or Tekken, where the lighting is handled by the engine, not done on the character itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Project L, I'm hoping for at least a roster of 20. I know people like hoping for 40 or something. Like, nah, man, it's not gonna happen.
Hmm.
I'm hoping for like starting roster at 20 would be nice. It's 2v2, not 3v3. Because 3v3, you would need a bigger roster, but it's not.
Hmm.
So 20, you can hit all the main archetypes. You can hit most of the popular characters.
Hmm.
Like, okay, here we got Yasuo, we got Lux, we got Teemo, like that kind of stuff. We know like a lot of the other big hitters, Darius, Katarina, are already in the game.
Hmm.
So you can hit most of your popular characters and like hopefully hit a couple more oddball archetypes. Like we already got Alawi. She's prepping Big Body Nation, right?
Hmm.
We got that. I want Nautilus, but I realize like Nautilus is like year 3 DLC or something. I'm
Yeah.
realistic about that, right?
Yeah.
Like
See,
but yeah.
I always thought they were gonna bring in like the. I was wrong with the character. With what characters they choose. I always thought they're going to bring in, okay, we're going to bring in Lee Sin, Akali. We're going to bring in, of course, like the Echo, Ari. They bring in all the popular characters, especially the arcane characters.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it was Alawi, and I was like, Alawi, really? Of all the people you're going to bring in Alawi? Yeah, that didn't make sense to me. And everything. Then you saw her play, and I was like, "Oh shoot, she actually looks pretty cool. She looks like she's going to be a really fun character, and everything."
Lowy, it makes sense to me.
As far as like popularity of the character goes, it didn't.
Like Lowy's not a character you sell as DLC, right? That's why you put her main roster.
Okay.
But like, and this is something they fixed over the recent years. But like,
Mm-hmm.
let's put it this way. Up until the last couple of years, the league roster was not very diverse, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so like that's part of the reason I think Alawi's there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad for, because I like Alawi a lot. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think she would make the fighting game, to be honest with you. And I saw her, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. That was the opposite, and it was really funny actually to hear, because you're like, oh shoot, like Marissa. You're like, oh, this looks sick. Marissa looks so sick. And I saw Marissa, and I was like, dude, this girl's gonna be a powerhouse. This looks awesome. But I'm like, but Mignon, she looked to me. That's what got me excited, was seeing Jury.
Just like
Yeah.
I made the video just today talking about like some of the more competitive aspects of the game and how
Mhm.
she's gonna frustrate people. But like
I saw that.
Marissa's gonna be the scrub character month 1, like the scrub killer character rather.
Okay.
And everyone's gonna complain she's the best character. I'm gonna tell people, no, she's not the best character. You're
Mhm.
just bad at the game and you don't understand how to fight her. It's like
Yeah.
it's gonna be DNF duel all over again. Like,
Yeah.
I got pilloried. I got taken to the cross, as it were, for the Crusader. Because I'm like,
Uh-huh.
hey, Crusader's not the best character. And everyone's
No.
like, what? He's obviously number 1 with a bullet. I'm like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Or
no, but he's a scrub killer and you got killed.
I felt that's how Grappler was in DNF Duel 2. He was like, Grappler was the scrub killer.
Oh, right. Yeah. Anyone with super armor will
Mhm.
plow through people who don't want to be patient, right?
Mhm.
And then the people who don't want to be patient will go on Twitter or Reddit or whatever and say, this character is the best character in the game
Mhm.
because I couldn't stop hitting buttons and some reason I got blown up for it.
Right.
Like, they'll always be that character. So like Marissa, month 1 will be the character that everyone
Mhm.
hates the most. But as I made in the video for today, which I don't know when this could be the video I made 3 months ago when you're watching this, I don't know. But Minnow will definitely be the characters like gets people really mad. Like once they figure everything out,
Yeah.
and no one likes being put in the blender. She will put you in the blender, guaranteed.
It's like her normals have a pull, and she
Yeah,
also
the
has that
vacuum.
kind of a range, and she's also a grappler. It's like
Yeah, like Potemkin,
true.
ACR Potemkin, like Guilty Gear X2 specifically,
Mhm.
has 2S, which is like a vacuum effect, right?
Mhm.
And when you know it, that's like, well, it's not the only thing, but it's one of the things. And this is the only game where Potemkin was ever good.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it, right?
Mhm.
Oh, hey, Guilty Gear Strive, Potemkin doesn't got the vacuum. Oh, he's garbage. Who would have thought?
I don't know that, like I see a lot of
Iron Taker,
Potemkins.
one of the most famous grapplers. He's part of the reason people love him because he has the vacuum effect. It's like, come to me.
I'm sorry,
You know,
who is this? I missed it.
Iron Taker from Blaze Blue.
Okay.
He can magnet you and force you into him, and then
Hmm.
causes a lot of rage, right? Because people don't want to go in against the grappler against their will, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what Manoa's going to do.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so
Big side tangent, I guess. Sorry about that.
no, that's great. That's great. But yeah, and so before we sign off, anything else you want to add for the educational side of things?
Watch the channel.
Yeah.
You're new for fighting games, especially coming from ProjectL. I'll probably be one of the better places you can check out, learn the game. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the thing. The fighting game community is incredibly accommodating. If you ask
Very
questions,
true.
people will answer.
They will.
Like, you might get the odd douche, like that's the internet, right? Like you might get the odd douche, but and like there's all sorts of discords, there's all sorts of subreddits. Twitter is just like one giant community for fighting games, and like a truly global one. You
Yeah.
have everyone from North America, everyone from South America, everyone from Europe. Japan is very active on Twitter as well. Like if you ask questions, you will not be short of people trying to help you with answers.
No, not at all. And don't let those toxic Redditors, those toxic Discord people turn, because they're very few of those. Yeah, they might make you feel bad, but then find a different
And
subreddit.
here's the
Find a
real
different
thing.
Discord.
If you got the people with the bad attitude,
Yeah,
99.99999% of them are scrubs. Don't listen to them anyways.
that's
Who
true.
cares? They wouldn't
And
have anything to offer you anyways.
yeah, and there are people like yourself. So check out Rooflemonger, check out Jay Wong, Brian F. All these guys are more than happy. You know, these are all professionals. These guys are all like this is their living. They're more than happy to help you. And they want you to succeed. They want you to have fun.
Like
Yeah.
back when I was working midnights, right? And I was still on the YouTube channel long before I became like a professional YouTuber. I was still making all the guides. I was still making all the videos just because I wanted to help people. And I'm hardly the only one in my boat. You know, there's some people who just want you to play. Like fighting games are the best games.
They are.
I have been here since 1991. I have never stopped since 1991, and I will never stop because there is nothing like a fighting game. And that is why I introduced so many people, because like Dragon Ball FighterZ, like in recent memory, so many people never played a fighter before, came out Dragon Ball FighterZ, and here they are playing Street Fighter 5, they're playing Tekken 7, they're playing Blaze Blue, they're playing Guilty Gear Strive, they're doing it because they stayed. Because it's not like Call of Duty, you buy the new one, you mess around for a month, and you drop it and go for the next thing.
Right.
So many people are here for life. This is the true NWO. You know, WCW, NWO might have died, but this one is for life. Like, we are here and we're gonna stay here.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's
Ain't
like
nothing like it.
I've never seen a community to where there's entire pages just dedicated to Mortal Kombat art. Like there's nothing like that. You know, it's like, yeah, they're League of Legends. I've seen that. You have League of Legends art and League of Legends cosplayers and everything, but there's nothing like it in the fighting game community. Has every aspect of every kind of nerd, not just gamer, just nerd in general.
Exactly. You know? Like there's some people who love fighting games that you don't have to even play the games at a hardcore level or anything just to be part of the FGC. There's so many people who just appreciate fighting games. Like fighting game characters. Name another genre with more expressive and larger than life characters. You can't.
No.
I played just about every JRPG under the sun, and like I can't even. I put 100 hours into Final Fantasy 12, and right now I cannot even tell you what the name of that character was.
Yeah,
I remember Fran the Bunny because she was Fran the Bunny. That is, I can't name you any other character right now. I put 100 hours in that game versus any other random fighting game from like just anything like Bad Mr. Frosty and Clay Fighter or something has more personality than the characters who mainline your 100-hour JRPG, right? Like there's the amount of life in fighting games you cannot find anywhere else, and that's part of the reason they're so great.
No, not at all. And I do like how in fighting games also it's like Modern Warfare. It's like, okay, you don't find somebody playing, you know, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 anymore. They're moving on to Modern Warfare into Warzone 2.0. You know, you don't find that but you will find Jaywong
People still playing
Third
Vampire
Strike.
Savior 25 years later,
People are still
nonstop.
playing Darkstalkers, 30 years later, or 25 years later. You still find people who are in my Discord. Like we were talking about, we're bringing back Street Fighter 4 just to have fun.
If you gave me a good netcode, I would absolutely hop into Street Fighter 4 again.
That's awesome.
So, of course, the keyword is you give me a good netcode, right?
Like, yeah.
That is my only regret now. I'll tell you, as the guy who's been here from the start. One thing I resent is it took this long for the base game to become playable online. Like, I'm almost 40 now. Why did it take this long? I was playing good online matches and like tribes in the 90s, Like I was playing Unreal Tournament, I was playing Quake 2 and Quake 3, and it was fine. It was great. Playing the original Counter-Strike, great.
Yeah.
And I was playing War 2 on LAN. I was playing StarCraft against Koreans. Fine. Why did it take this long for the basic freaking game to work online,
Yeah. So and
that's the only regret I guess I have. But we're there now. Yes. I got grays in my sideburns now, like youth was robbed from me waiting for this stuff.
Oh yeah. It's like I picture that meme of like, Rooflemonger skeleton. It's like waiting for good netcode for
up until like 2 years ago, like I might have went to my grave and we never would have got it, but we finally got there, thank God. Like that to me, that's the bright side of COVID. Like if you got to be real about it, right? Because without it, we never would have got the good netcode. People just
I mean, I think they also kind of realized that like, people are still playing Dragon Ball Fighters. Maybe we should improve the netcode if we want people to keep playing Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yeah, what a crazy thought, huh?
Yeah.
I always look at it this way: is Grand Blue Fantasy came out like right when COVID started, and the way I always took it is Grand Blue Fantasy versus died to save the FGC. That is our martyr. You have the game, you can't play online in the era to just start it where everyone has to play online. And then people are like, oh, I'll fix that, I guess.
Yeah. And I remember when that game came out too, because I was like, I went to Dragon Ball
Fighters. It's a good game too.
It is it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Except for Charlotta. But yeah, it's but yeah, it's I remember going to Dragon Ball Fighters locals and everybody didn't want to play that. They like Grand Blue Fantasy. And that's what everybody was doing. But then it's like a couple years later, it's like, oh, we're, a couple months later, not playing that. But everybody, I remember, was waiting for the PC port and everybody's waiting for the netcode. Those were the two things that everybody's waiting for, and it didn't come along. That was another thing about like, but MK12 by no means is going to be a failure. But when you make the fans wait for so long without any kind of
that's not on NRS, that's all on Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah, I know. And
that's why the Ed Boon tweets are what they are, because he's like saying everything he can say without the lawyers coming from him,
without his violating his NDA. And but you can tell, I've noticed Ed Boon does the little the carrot stick kind of thing. He kind of dangles that and trolls you a little bit. He's totally past that. Now he's at a point where he's just like,
here, have the carrot, have the rutabaga, have the whole freaking.
He's like, I'm going to say it without saying it because I don't want to violate my NDA. But is MK12 coming? Yes. ... Like or what did he say? Like the 23. He's like, I'm not allowed to 23 say that.
Whatever our next game is, who knows what it could be. Then it's like, oh, next game might be Mortal Kombat 12, might be Injustice 3. Now it's just, no, it's Mortal Kombat 12. It's coming out in 2023.
Yeah. And I think honestly, I think we've learned a lot from the Street Fighter 6 marketing. Is that one thing I've noticed about Street Fighter 6 and the two executive producers of the game who've been by far, the Street Fighter 6 marketing campaign is my favorite to this date for fighting games, because it's like they weren't just like, oh, here's all here's 4 characters, we're gonna make a trailer, oh, here's the entire roster, here you go, and here's the next 4 characters and this is how they're gonna play, and they're all been great, and they're like, oh, this is how we're gonna teach new players, this is our they're just showing you everything and just getting you hyped for it. Oh, June 2nd. Here's the thing. And they've been very transparent. And this is the first time in since I've been playing fighting games when you're just like, freaking, hey, finally, gosh dang it. Like this is everything I've ever wanted. Just tell me
especially
everything.
from a Japanese developer, which is
Yeah.
infamously more stubborn. Like, let's be honest, right?
Sure.
But it's one of those deals where Street Fighter is a pillar of Capcom,
Mm-hmm.
and pillar slipped, right? Street Fighter, it slipped. And
Okay.
now they have to course correct like a motherfucker. And because they've done this before is the thing. A lot of people
Are
are
you
just
talking
looking at the
about
fighting game.
the roster leak, like the initial
Oh, no,
roster?
the Rust Leaks, whatever. I'm saying like Street Fighter 5 is a game.
Uh-huh.
Here comes one of our pillars of our company, and
Oh, okay.
as it
Yeah.
happened, Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil was untouchable till Resident Evil 6. And then they
Yeah.
come back, it's like, okay, we got to rethink everything. And then they came back with Resident Evil 7, which
Mm-hmm.
completely put not only put the franchise back on the map, but put it back with like both feet on the ground, stomping everyone's heads in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Street Fighter 6 has to be. It has to be Resident Evil 7. We come back, we innovate, and we prove again why we were here to begin with.
Yes.
Because we can't afford.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine when like Monster Hunter has like a bad game, and then they come back for the game
Yeah.
after that. Then Monster Hunter is gonna be bigger than Fortnite. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm waiting for that. And Monster Hunter's like that was one of the best. What would you call it? A casual MO. But
sort of like single player MMO. What like
like
you can
I wouldn't.
like
Yeah,
Guild Wars? I guess does that make sense?
Guild Wars
Like,
technically.
Guild Wars is like instanced and it's not full MMO, but it sort of is, but it isn't.
Yeah, there's a like an MO like MMORPG, like not massive multiplayer, it's instanced, you know. But it's so fun. And one of the best things I love about Monster Hunter too, by the way, is just the fact that it's like, oh, it's like I need this piece of armor, but I need this thing to make this piece of armor. I've always liked the idea of creating, and that was the other thing. I was fighting games, League of Legends, and I played, gosh, how many MMOs? Like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2.
My
Like,
first MMO was Meridian 59. That's before Ultima Online.
is that like one of the text ones?
Oh, it was graphical. It was graphical.
Oh,
This
okay.
was 96, I think.
Never heard of it.
It's not. It's not worth knowing about. But that was when I started. Then I went on to UO. Then I went like I was before I became the Rooflemonger and fighting games. My biggest fame to claim on the internet was being one of the worst like gankers and griefers and MMOs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
like
I'm
were
one
you
of the
the
founding
alliance?
members of I'm one of the founding members of the Goon Squad. If you've ever heard of that,
Mm-mm.
very famous for like ganking and griefing and troublemaking. Let's put
Is
it
this
that way.
in like World of Warcraft to
everything. To me, I still think of World of Warcraft as a newer game. This was everything all the way leading up to World of Warcraft.
I mean, because I was like, because
I got Warlocks nerfed because I figured out a way to chain charm people in STV,
okay,
and this is when the game was newer. And if you entered the water, I drown you. You couldn't escape the stun lock.
uh-huh.
And then I would do that for like, a full week. Then I would hit the Blizzard boards and like, oh my God, here's this guy doing it. Then other people would copy it. And then a week after, okay, we got to patch this out.
I'm gonna look this up now. The
Might still be there on some Blizzard board.
Like another, by the way, so we were talking about gaming events or gaming, like there's the Leroy Jenkins, there's the Evo number 37 and stuff, red shirt guy. World of Warcraft is some of the best events and everything, like and some of the most like notorious too, is like there's so many things like in that game, particularly. Like I forgot what the server was, but it's like, you want a good time, go to the Goldshire Inn. And
fucking one of the EU servers, wasn't it? I remember that one.
Or there was the time that you can go online and you can YouTube like World of Warcraft stories and stuff, and you'll find specific stories. Like I remember there was like some like night elf romance going on in gosh, what's the Dwarven kingdom?
I played Horde. I don't know. I never played any Alliance ever.
Yeah, but I mean, like it's just like you'll find stories, and that's what I love about that. That's another thing to bring it back, honestly, to like Mortal Kombat specifically. You still to this day get people talking theories about deception in Armageddon.
Oh yeah,
like still to this day.
Cousin saw the Kano sexuality on Sonya. It's true.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that's it. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming in, Rooflemonger. I'm a huge fan. So I still to this I've found you by finding your guides, and any new player, if you get the chance, if you want to play a new fighting game, look into new fighting games, by all means check out Rooflemonger. He's the professor. He's the guy who's going to help you out.
I try my best. I just want people to like fighting games. That's it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we're in a position now. Every year it just gets a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. Next year, like I've said, it's going to be the biggest year since 1995, basically.
Dude.
Because Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 12 alone, both hitting in the same year, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Couple of the fact that Tekken 8 might not, but might hit in 2023. ProjectL, who knows, but it's also on Horizon. Like, now is the time to get into fighting games for sure.
It is. I see a huge rebirth, a huge resurgence of fighting games, and for anybody interested, now is the time. So I totally agree with you there, man.
100%.
So, all right, man. So thanks again.
Have a good time, everyone.